Hey everybody, it's old folks. I've had a lot of requests for a little bit more of an in-depth Subterra guide, help with some of the heroes. So I want to kind of talk about it a little bit today and kind of go over some of the stuff versus like the recommended heroes and things like that. The first one we're going to talk about here is Lord Scylla. You'll notice they have their recommended heroes for her. Again, the huge thing with her is, you know, the healing through it. And so, well, that may be the recommended heroes. If you look at my team down here that I have for her, it's not the recommended list. Again, I've picked better heroes. I've picked heroes that do damage. But one of the key ones I want to talk about here is Candy. Now, Candy will stop her healing. It's one of those things where Pandarus, if he's awoken, will do that also, but Candy doesn't have to be awoken. I tested this out on another account where I have a 3-star Candy. She was only like level 50, and I still beat it. Wasn't an issue. It stops the healing. So Candy on your team is phenomenal for preventing her from healing, which means you don't have to burst her down in that one short window, which makes this so much easier, which is how guys are getting through the level 7s, the levels 8s and stuff like that, is because of her. Otherwise, again, you're just going to need some people that are going to drop some damage on her in a lot of period of time. You know, I have one tank to kind of absorb it. It doesn't really matter. I could have picked somebody else, but this is just the team that I went with. As far as dealing with their little boy right here, I picked Jacob. Jacob isn't recommended, but he heals. He heals himself. His ultimate's phenomenal. Once he's awoken, he's a beast. Haha, that's a joke. You know, if you've got a great Chavez, great, but if you don't, you really can do some great success here with Jacob. From there, I do kind of stick with kind of the standard grouping of who they say, but there's times I'll kick out some of these guys. I'll throw in a Gears or a Lufia. I've got that on my other server. That's what I run because I don't have another healer outside of Arya. So, you know, you don't have to go with the recommended heroes. You just have to think about, you know, what can I do to overcome the major issue? And often the major issue is once your tank dies, you're dead. So Jacob is really a shining star here because he keeps himself alive. Now let's talk about Grunk for a second. I'm going to go back here to the recommended list. You know, these are the recommended people. Obviously, this is one of those times that Karas really becomes a great hero because of his ability to heal himself through a guy like this. You know, none of the people here are legendary. That said, if you're facing Krabby, you're really going to probably want to stick media on Krabby because media is really great against Krabby. So you've got to kind of pick and choose. Now remember, anybody who's not flying is going to die almost instantaneously. Nothing you can do about it. That's just the way it works. If I come out of here for a second, I go to my heroes. I'm going to pick Vortex just because he's up at the top, and I pick on the flying group. You know, this is your list of flyers. I run Aurora on one of my other servers against him because she keeps them alive, you know, for a little bit longer, does some great damage. So, you know, if you take out your legendary guys here, the 3 of them, you know, that still leaves you a pretty decent grouping of people to get. I run these guys. I mean, that's who I pick. You can throw a healer if you want. You know, again, it's often a race to damage, but if you don't have enough damage, you're going to need a healer to stay alive. So, those are some of the picks that I use there against Grunk. As far as, yes, I know, Krabby's one of those tough ones because you got to take out the boxes in order to give your team invincibility. Now, sometimes the match goes perfect and I don't have any issues, and other times it doesn't destroy it in time, and so I lose my Teresa on the back line, so I've got to, you know, run it again, and then I beat it. You know, this is where Spar does really well because he has that frontal attack that does great. Lufia, again, does great because she has a little AE attack. I've never ran Baggins, but I'm assuming he could work because of how his bomb AEs. I do run Luke because if you watch Krabby, Krabby does heal himself some. And so I like Luke because Luke minimizes that as well as media. So what I usually run, if you look here on mine, is I use a tank setup. Now, again, this can be any tank. If I didn't put him here, I'd probably have Kong Ming here. Or Kong Ming. I'm going to brain fart here. The big monkey boy tank up here. having a Saturday moment. Usually I don't do this. You know, I run a York. I don't have to run a York, but I do run a York because he does good damage, and I also have the Frostwell Banshees, the little Frostwell thing. So there's lots of alternatives. A lot of times you're going to want to pick your top of the line guys and play with them. They don't have to be exactly who they recommend. When you know, Grunk, that's a flyer. You got to have flyers. Wreck. You know, Wreck, these are the people that I use. Depending on levels, it doesn't really matter. But you're going to kind of have to realize a healer isn't going to be able to heal through it. Some guys try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, it's really tricky on certain levels. Multiple tanks don't do it because he does so much damage up close. You really just have to have those knockback kind of people that can really burst him down. So that one, again, it's kind of like a Grunk. There's not a lot of options there. Rams is another difficult one because for a lot of people, they can't heal through it. Again, this is where tanks come into play. A great Chavez, or again, a great Jacob. I run Jacob on him because Jacob heals himself. Yes, you're going to take damage, but I also run my healer. I usually run two healers. Two healers here is really important. I've tried it with Wreck before for the lifesteal. It just didn't work for me. So usually what I do is I run some DPS. If Mira's free, I'll run a Mira. Or, you know, but I really try to stack up because he'll kill himself before time runs out. So you just have to stay alive. So I run 2 tanks, 3 healers, you know, something like that. You know, like I said, I do run Wreck because he's got a physical shield, especially at 3 dots where his shield takes more, gives more bonus to it. So that works good again there. And depending on your tank, like a Jacob, it helps him to stay alive even more. So you could run a Wreck, 2 healers, and you could run a number of tanks. I run Kaiser on this account because I've got a high level Kaiser. And every time they get a dodge, somebody gets a heal, you know, when the Scarabs attack. I like Murphy because I can use your ultimate and sometimes take out the Scarabs before they detonate and hurt my guys. So, you know, you just kind of have to play with them and kind of move around it. Delphos is one of those tough guys where, you know, this recommended lineup is kind of the recommended lineup. But at the same time, again, I change it up some. You know, I do pick a tank. You know, I'll run a Kaiser because he's against magic, and Kaiser's, you know, anti-magic tank. Sometimes I do run a damager. You know, I might swap in a Mira again, somebody that does a lot of burst damage real quick. So I kind of go from there. Remember, disables don't work against these guys. So while the recommended heroes are great, sometimes you just got to pick your best guns and go with it. Kind of out there, that's pretty much everybody that we've got listed. If you got any questions or comments, let me know. I know for the majority of people, this right here is the one hero that just destroys them. And I'm telling you, if you get Candy, even if she's 1 star, and you just level her up and her skills up and give her some gear, she'll shut it down. And you'll be like, wow, this is so much easier. And the truth is, yeah. So hopefully that helps. If you guys got any questions or comments, feel free to let me know. Again, if you're going to run a Candy with this team, one of the perks of this is because they're not going to heal through the damage, you can actually swap out somebody and put a healer here if you've got a free healer. And that way you don't have to worry about, you know, everybody dying before the second ultimate. Later levels, you'll see a lot of guys run that, where they're going to run some damage people. They're going to run a Candy and they're going to run a healer so that they can live through the 2 ults. But I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, comments, again, please feel free to leave them and I'll answer them. Hope you all are having a great weekend. Talk to you all.